Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Zerg in the red, the Italian stallion. It's Reynor, facing off against one of the most creative Terrans in the game. In the blue, we have Ryung in a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown. And before we get started, it appears we're getting started very early. Be awesome if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? Quickly. 1,739 likes on this video, on this cast. I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than Reynor's as 2 racks taking up residence right outside his base. I hope you brought the balance wine, because we're starting things off with one of the strongest cheeses. That Overlord without enough motivation. If he just scouted a few pixels further. But what he doesn't know very much can... Ryung sold it. This SCV is a normal scouting timing. These SCVs, less so. The bunker's going to be slapped down on the front. He's going to try to wall it off. The creep is already spread a little bit too far. But the SCVs are able to adapt, and the Overlord itself. Wow, the subtle bait and switch actually convinced Reynor for the few seconds he needed in order to execute the most disgusting and most potentially effective of early game cheeses. The drones are pulled off the line, but they have nowhere to go. The bunkers will complete. And then, I don't know. I haven't seen this in a long time. The queens are gonna pop out. The bunker hitting the hatchery. I think only one? Looks like one bunker. The other bunkers were supposed to be in range, but he was just a couple seconds late. And the creep went further. The backbone of the defense. The spines uprooted. Moving forward. Gonna try to get some damage. Spines can technically outrange bunkers, but only from a certain angle, which is why he's popping the Marines out of the bunker. But the SCVs trying to dodge the spine crawler hits. Those impaler tentacles are absolutely dangerous, but also exciting, if you know what I mean. And the tentacles slam. He's just target firing the bunker. The hatchery itself, half HP. Queens getting more damage done. The 2 racks still pumping out Marines. A few Zerglings stray into it. He actually... Okay, he can't kill the bunker. 3 SCVs are enough to repair. The placement is perfect. The Queen's coming up. The Zerglings looking to overrun. Targets down one of the SCVs. Gets a second. The Marines will be unloaded forcibly by the Zerglings, and Queens tries to target down one, but another save, and it looks like a cleanup on Isle Zerg, as this cheese has been dismantled with great prejudice. Gonna attempt a salvage, and there's nothing left to do. With several HP left on the hatchery, Reynor, calm, cool, collected, and bloodthirsty, is able to turn it around. He breaks the bunkers. He rips apart the Marines, destroys the SCVs. And what did it cost him? It cost him a lot. 21 to 26 workers. Ryung already has a 2nd command center nearly completed back at home. A 3rd command center has already begun, even before Reynor has started his 3rd hatch. It cost him the drones to build the spines. Creep spread is going to be severely delayed. There's still enough Marines on the map that are hunting with the help of the barracks lords here. Did you know barracks fly faster than overlords without speed? That's a not-so-fun fact if you're Zerg. And oh no! Overlord taken down. Zergling speed only halfway done. There's enough Marines that even then the Zergling counts. 16 Zerglings, 8 Marines. On the open field with speed, yes. Anywhere else, the Marines are going to clean it up easily enough. So when everything is concluded, well, it's just begun at this stage. 5 minutes in, and we're at the economy you'd usually see maybe around 2.5. 3rd command center for Ryung. He's going to get some more racks behind. Well, actually, wait. He already got those racks. They're just coming home now for the first time. The home they've never known. But we'll see what sort of build he comes up with next. Looking suspiciously standard at this stage, with a Banshee and Cloak on the way. The racks pretending like none of this ever happened, but the first 2 Hellions. The spine crawlers that Reynor was compelled to build, exactly the right amount, apparently. The spine crawlers will root on the front lines to make it a little easier, and gets the wraparound of the Hellions to shreds, I say. a whole bunch of Zerglings. Reynor has revealed his hand. His hand, not exactly the most subtle thing in the history of StarCraft 2. It's, I made a bunch of Zerglings, and what are you going to do about it? There are 2 Hellions. 4 Hellions now is a lot more to deal with. He's trying to bait it out. The rest of the Hellions trying to get the wraparound. The Marines are still on the high ground. He's actually going to use the covering fire in the most literal sense of the term. And so far, Reynor... his chances of really grabbing back the initiative in this game going up in flames. Wow, Ryung, with the presence of mind to use the Marines on the high ground as opposed to retreating to the ramp where it may have been a bit less effective. And now, you know what this tells me? Ryung is a menace on the ladder. Okay. This sort of comfortable transition, I mean, you've laddered at some point in the last, well, let's be generous here, decade. You'll know that almost everyone has that sort of cheese that they'll pull out. Maybe the only thing they'll pull out. And moving on, but it's the follow-up. It's the ability that... Ryung was already playing a macro game before Reynor was done dealing with the bunkers. And when there are 3 bunkers on your front lawn, you cannot help but focus on them. I mean, there's nothing else Reynor could have done. But Ryung bought the time he needed. Sure, he would have loved to win the game outright, but Reynor ain't falling for that. Hellions will slice away the edges of the creep. Zergling sneaking by. And by sneaky, I mean directly into a dozen or so Marines. 1-1's already on the way. Yeah, I don't think Ryung's too unhappy with that sneaking. A Banshee casually taken out while both myself and Ryung not looking. The Queen's knocking it down. Despite the cloak, it seems. There was already a Spore Queller, and Reynor wasting no time building up the drone count. Ryung following up barracks 4 and 5. 1-1 upgrades already on the way. Reynor's focused on the Carapace upgrade to keep pretty much all those units alive for a little bit longer. Which is usually a better damage buff for Zerg, because your units stay alive long enough to attack your opponent. The attack upgrades are great, but you have to get close enough first for the most part. Double drop sent out by Ryung over to the right flank, where Creep is already trying to make up for lost time. Back at home, 63 SCVs and 5 more racks. It's going to be the Octo racks out of Ryung. A follow-up Marine timing to complement the one earlier. And many of the Marines experience from that battle as well. We actually managed to get most of them out, besides the ones in that very notable bunker. Well, despite our best efforts so far on both sides, it looks like we're going into a straight-up macro game. 3 base economy for Ryung. Reynor pretty comfortably expanding to 4. The Marines about to finish combat shield. They have their upgrades. The Queen's out in front. Transfuse at the back. Hellions covering. And, well, with the Queen's Lings and Banes, Reynor already has the drone count he wants to go into the next phase of the game. Does he have an infestation pit? No. Hydralisk Den? No. Burrow? Just begun. So we'll see what branch of the tech tree he wants to expand into next. But it seems almost inevitable we're going to see something soon. The Lings and Banes. Right now, 68 Zerglings, 22 Banes. Infestation pit on the way. Ryung still pumping out Marines and marching across the map. 2-2 has started. He hasn't built an SCV for several minutes. 63, enough to maximize the economy on 3 bases and not spending a mineral more. Scans the main. There's no hive on the way, which means Ryung's window is a lot wider than he might have expected at this stage of the game. So he's going to take it relatively slow. Look at that spread. I can't believe it's not butter. Puts the tanks jammed into the corner where it's going to be very difficult for Reynor to engage. He doesn't have Ravagers with Corrosive Bile. He doesn't have Vipers with Blinding Cloud. He's just got Lings, Banes, and understanding that quantity has a quality all its own. +1 melee attacks is done. The surround is setting up. +2 Carapace is about to complete. And a tactical pause, looks like from Wardy. Look, I'm not sure who that hurts more. Probably just Wardy. Sorry, Wardy. Shout out to Wardy. Meanwhile, Wings and Banes. Siege tank took the wrong path. The rest of them in a pretty good spot still. Dead even on supply, which doesn't usually bode well for the Zerg. But this army is kind of stranded. I'm not sure if it's in a tough position, or Reynor is, who's already expanding to the north side, where a Banshee seems to have pressured it somewhat. The hatchery nearly dead. Not the only one so far this game, but the most important right now. Gonna try to target it down, but here comes Reynor. 3 different sides. Dozens of Zerglings and Banelings roll it through. Gonna try to connect with the Marines. Gets a chunk. Hellions and siege tanks are left behind. And Reynor crushes the attack seconds before 2-2 upgrades can complete. And the Queens are gonna hit him with some knitting needles on the way out. Already scrambling to the north, anticipating the attack to this angle. The obvious switch, but the Queens were abandoned. The Marines just dropped. Oh, the Baneling Mine! What a play! I didn't see it. Ryung didn't see it. You know, that's a lot I'm missing right now. But the Baneling Mine hits that exact corner. Wow, the anticipation. Meanwhile, the Spore... Oh, hesitated for a second. Jimmy, edit that out. That was ridiculous. Okay, that is not... My children aren't going to see that on their AI holograms in 30 years. Okay, it'll be other things. Something unrelated. Fiery death, maybe. Moving on. An Ultraless Cavern is on the way. As Reynor has defended not 4, but 5 bases. He did lose some drones and was forced into more defense, but he's complementing his entire hive tech. 4 Vipers, Adrenal Glands, plus 3 Carapace. But make no mistake, Ryung is still... That Widow Mine doing terrible. Retargeting the mines in order to keep Reynor at bay. You see him trying to split off the Zerglings, but Ryung just abandons the 4th base, realizing he needs to cut his losses here. And Reynor actually ends up losing a huge amount of Zerglings there. 250 Zerglings and 20 Banelings dead before attacking. Gets the burrow off. Now the threat of burrowed Zerglings will continue, as no Raven in production and not that many orbital commands. As remember, Ryung kind of stalled his economy in order to go for this mid-game timing. But so far, it's not been enough. And Reynor, with the Zerglings, wait, the Marines are standing their ground. And guess who survives this? The Marines, with the upgrade advantage just before Adrenal Glands completes. And another Bio Ball just comes swinging into the right. Ryung knows what he has, and he's tearing through everything in his path. The presence... The Zergling taken out by, burrowing some Queens as well. Finding more use of burrow, but Ryung with that old school M&M and M&M. The Marines, the Marauders, the Mines, and the Medevacs, and now swung through to the 3 o'clock, pushing forward. Parasitic bombs from the Vipers on pretty much every Medevac, out of energy, and now dropping heavily in life. 5 Ultraless in production. Infantry weapons, level 3 and plus 3 armor, seconds away, but maybe too many for these Marines. It completes mid-fight. A few more Banelings crashing in, but the Marines just grinding through. Chitinous plating still 30 seconds out, but Ryung hits him over to the left side. Widow Mines will burrow, no drilling claws unneeded. Forces the split back. And Reynor still dropping in supply. He just lost a hatchery, but he managed to sneak a hatch in the bottom right corner. And somehow that's going to become the most important base of the game. Ryung, slowly but surely, finding an opportunity, creating the space he needed, the patience, the fact that he pulled back from his 4th base. So many Terrans would have potentially died on that metaphorical and sometimes literal hill. But Ryung just pulls back until he gets a better position. The Ultras, the Changelings there, kind of giving him a false sense of security. But Reynor is on the ropes right now. The Ultras, though, are tagged in. And Chitinous Plating is completed. The Marines giving him no more than a deep tissue massage. The parasitic bombs knocking down Medevacs with Marines inside. Another couple, a strong gust of wind away from a tragedy. And Reynor will survive as the Hive Tech finally comes online. The Vipers slurping out the life from one of the important... Oh, no. Oh, yeah. You can no longer kill your buildings outright in a quality of life in the most literal sense. You'd have to target it again. They will automatically stop with 10 HP or something like that. Which, you know, I mean, denies us those dramatic moments of Reynor literally sucking the life out of his important buildings. But to be fair, I mean, what are you gonna do? A buff that you'd love to complain about, but in the end, really shouldn't matter too much. Well, it's been a brutal game thus. This started with a bunker wall and has smoothly transitioned into a macro brawl. And so far, both players have continued sending increasingly dramatic and powerful armies against one another, but neither has yet to fall. High-sec auto-tracking and building armor, Ryung already filling out the infantry weapons and armor upgrades, so maxing out his potential infrastructure. Doesn't have any mech upgrades at the moment, but, well, besides the basic unit ones. The Cero Fester throws out the fungal! Huge! And the pickups are far too late. Most of them will not survive. Another parasitic bomb quarantines some medevacs, but multiple taken down with all hands. Ryung almost spontaneously dropping another 20 supply. Oh, he overlapped the parasitic bombs to make sure it do enough damage. They don't stack, but you can extend the duration by applying another. Just, at this point, the Viper's doing almost as much damage to Reynor's hatcheries as Ryung so far. The Banelings crashing through in this base, contested before, now might just be obliterated. The Ultras chewing through, the Banelings, some incidental damage on the side, and Reynor up 30 supply, but Ryung still has a strong army on the field, and he's starting some Liberators as well as Ghosts. Those late-game options that may give him the edge he needs to cut back at Reynor. Again, the creep spread has been whittled down. Reynor has kind of an awkward expansion pattern. The fact he was able to get that bottom right corner base, and I believe he burrowed some drones just in case, is how he managed to keep his economy going when it could have plummeted to almost nothing besides whatever he had left on his natural and his third. The main bases are mined out. The natural's pretty much dried up. Ryung even further along with those mules. And now that means the outlying bases are increasingly important. These armies are so dangerous to one another. Widowmine's drawn out. Parasitic bomb across the board. Venn diagram of freedom on the Liberators, but the Ghosts are caught in front. They will retreat back, but the sheer biomass of these Ultras is bearing down on the Terran army. The Marauder splits are good. The Liberators will hit them on the way out and may actually finish off some extra Ultras. And Ryung manages to hold on and almost completely turn it around. He doesn't lose a base. He doesn't lose a critical mass of SCVs. And he didn't lose actually too many of those air units, as the parasitic bombs are not enough on their own. Though some badly bruised Liberators and some well-taxed medevacs here. Out of energy, almost out of life. But this hatchery in a precarious position. Not the Spire! Not the Spire! I guess they listened, or they finally got their energy, but he snipes off the hatchery that was consumed in the bottom right corner. And Reynor's saving grace has become a liability. Queen's coming down. The Ultras with half an Ultra, 3 Ultras with half an Ultralisk of HP between them. The Queen's scrambling around. Finally, Corruptor's hitting the field, ideally before he consumes his own Spire to death. The Marauders, medevac boosting past into the main base. Reynor still maxed out. Ryung loses that medevac, though it drags the army for a little while yet. And the Fusion Core is on the way. As Wardy, again, with a tactical pause. Wardy, we don't play this in rounds. This from Wardy's Korean Royale, though, and we're making shout out to Wardy again. Make sure to support him. Apparently he needs new internet tubes. But apparently Reynor an honorary Korean here. I mean, he's played in GSO. I don't know if he's living in Korea right now. Occasionally he's done so in the past. Well, that's a very strong Terran army. And honestly, well, let's look at the mining. Reynor's mined 6,000 more minerals, about the same amount of gas. He's lost 6,000 more minerals. and about the same amount of gas. So, an even money game so far. As time goes on, if the Terran army is allowed, if Ryung can build up a bank and keep his expansions alive, the Terran army becomes almost impossible to beat. Ghosts and Liberators. Ghosts now 2 supply and 125 HP, but they are light units, which makes them more vulnerable to banelings, though stronger in almost every other sense. Reynor so far still has the map control. Ryung is struggling to put 200 supply on the field. Reynor somehow managed to keep these bases alive despite consuming them over half to death. He's rebuilt the bottom right corner. He's now mining comfortably again. Well, as comfortable as it gets from the 3 o'clock. He's got the rich Vespine down the center, as does Ryung on his side of things. So, this is that lull, I guess the calm before the metaphorical storms here. Diffuses another... Oh, still no drilling clause out of Ryung. Feels like a pretty significant oversight, but he only has 1 factory, so no tech lab. Just forcing the Zerg into keeping, like, right now there are exactly 0 overseers, which is not very many. So, Reynor relying on micro and attrition to deal with the Widowmines. But overall, Ryung staying very efficient, while Reynor is staying very effective. Somehow slips by as the turrets per minute continues to raise. The Cyril Fester underneath, channeling his teammate. Meanwhile, the depots are lowered, which seems to defeat the whole purpose of the wall here. Another Venn diagram of liberation. We'll just pincushion these Zerglings. Is he freeing up supply? Or is he just trying to draw the army out of position? Look at those sensor towers. Did he misclick like 3 sensor towers? Sure, why not? He can see everything. More Zerglings coming through. The depot, the door's wide open! You can't just let him in! And... I don't know. Did he pay... Who did he bribe? The Zerglings seem to be, Oh. He realizes as Marines and Marauders come scrambling back, but a double depot... It looks like it will burn at the end of the day. Gonna burrow the Lings in the main, force out another scan. A mild to moderate inconvenience. That burrowed infester is the most important thing right now. But this army... That is... How many? Well, there's Corruptors. Alright, there's Corruptors. The Widowmines draws out a couple with the Zerglings. And... Oh, the 4 goal! It doesn't get any better than that! Oh, I don't even know if I can show this! How devastating this is for the Zerg, actually, as... No, I take it all back. For a moment, it looked bad. The entire ground army is annihilated. But everything is knocked out of the sky simultaneously. Reynor with 112 Zerglings. We saw it hit in the production tab. And he finally ran out of larva. And still has money in the bank for another round when he builds it up. Ryung is caught by... the biggest fungal I have ever seen. At this point, he definitely needs to get checked out by a doctor. It doesn't get any better than that. That was maximum radius, ground and air. 3 dimensions of disaster as the army closed in. But the position was so good. Still, Reynor took heavy losses. It's just he can afford it. Well, the Vikings trying to contest Ghost Cloak. Remember, there are no Overseers, and he hasn't had motivation to build anymore. Another round of Banelings is coming through. Should see the first Overseers here momentarily as the Ghosts line up their shots. More Infestors. Ryung with heavy losses. He loses the base in the top left corner. The Lings burrow mid-fight. Another one on the way. How many orbital commands? 5? Not great, not terrible. 5 orbital commands is enough to scan essentially on cooldown, but you can't be dropping mules at the same time. Usually we see 8 to 12 in that sort of Iron Bank scenario. Oh no, the Widowmines actually hit the Corruptors incredibly hard. He loses half of them. The other half, well, they aren't happy about the situation either. And that, well, Reynor getting a little bit ahead of himself as the army supplies are still very close. 104 to 120, and with an entrenched position, and Reynor doesn't have his Corruptors with him, those Liberators add up the damage very quickly. The Zergling count's still damn high. 99 Zerglings. Though the number's gonna lower pretty quick here. Widowmine dragged out. Another one. Actually splits off that one link. Doesn't do enough. Another Widowmine. So far, did we just drop a mule to repair a missile? Now, was it worth it? Emotionally, the depots. Real fake doors. Look at this depot. Doesn't raise. This depot doesn't exist. All right? Wherever you go, depots that don't raise. Okay. Some people, when they get older, as Ryung, one of our oldest players, has trouble getting their depots up. And you know what? There's no shame in that. But it is troublesome against the Zerg. And now, the Ultras crashing through, the Baneling zoning out, the Liberators. The Ultras have gone too far. Wow, the Liberators just pin cushioning another one with those massive shots, but another scan, just making sure there are no Zerglings. And that, I think that last set was maybe the massive war beast that broke the turtle's back. Ryung, back to 150 supply, but he's down to 27 SCVs. That is unsustainable. He doesn't have enough orbital commands for that mule-based economy. He's kept the Liberators alive, and Reynor has not been particularly diligent against knocking them out. So, another... Okay, that... Raise the... We got it this time. All right, 17th time is a charm. The Liberators, 14 kills, 7 kills. Let's throw the fire. And Fury. It's still not enough against the Corruptors. He dragged the army out of position. +2 mech armor is done. The snipes on the Corruptors. Lines up the Liberators. Trying to set up this position one more time. But Reynor, I think, is looking to break it yet again. Drags out. Still no drilling claws. Never had the opportunity. And Reynor has over half the map. He's finally mining from that 6 o'clock location. Planetary down the center. Ryung still holding, though it feels like it's been a while yet since he's been able to strike back at Reynor. And eventually the Zerg, with 2 to 3 extra bases. He's mining from the same or opposite locations at the 12 o'clock and the 6. This is not a war of attrition that Ryung can win. If he doesn't turn the tide soon, he's going to drown. The Ultras down the center. Base is mostly mined out, but removing this location is obviously helpful. Banelings crash through. Liberator siege up. Corruptors will take that opportunity for some free targets. Takes it down. The Ultras cleaving through. Meanwhile, counter damage being done. May lose a hatchery. The Ultras depots lowered. Or raised. Whatever the important thing is. Takes out a base. But it pales in comparison to the damage that Reynor's been able to do. The creep has finally respread out. Though it never really reached the point it once was before the large attacks around 3-3 upgrades. In fact, speaking of, Reynor actually never got +3 melee attack, which may have contributed to the struggle to actually break this army outright. I'm not sure the math on how many Banelings it takes to kill a ghost, but that may be the difference between, I believe, 3 and 4. 13 more Banes, +3 flyer attack now to counteract the +3 mech armor and just make it a little bit easier to take down those starport units, which are the most important for Ryung's continued survival. Ryung has given up, for the most part, on any sort of counter-aggression, has turtled up into a full war of attrition. Unfortunately, I don't think he can hold on much longer. Corruptor swing in again. Ultras. He doesn't have another infestor, nor does he need it. As the Ultras cleaving through the SCVs. Well... Okay, maybe he needs it. I would like to revise my previous statement. He needs it. An infestor would... Oh, looks like Banelings were burrowed. Unburrowed, hits the back of the army. Ryung has the army supply lead for the first and maybe the last time of this game. 17 SCVs remain. The Marines and Marauders in autumn colors. Appropriate for the season, but does not bode well. Widowmon's gonna try to get the hits. There's an what? An Infestor pops up when he needed it most. But, well, the Marines and Marauders are refusing to die, but the Corruptors are slowly but surely grinding through the Liberators. Will knock it. Well, would you die already? As the Marines survive the fight, the Liberators taking enough hits. More Zerglings, more Ultras. Feels like Reynor is also wondering why Ryung is still here. But Ryung fighting to the absolute bitter end. It started with a bunker wall. But it should end with the death of these Marines and Marauders. Try to target another one. Widowmine slams the point home. The Ultra off a creep will be targeted, but the Queens will keep it alive and allow it to cleave through. Reynor, after 30 minutes of one of the most dramatic games, 1,203 Zerglings, 132 Banelings, well over 130,000 resources. And Ryung was looking strong throughout most of it. But at some point, the inflection point to Reynor was, he just kind of ran away with it. Ryung did a great job of keeping Reynor under control, starting in the most literal sense with a... Honestly, I think most Zerg players, besides Reynor's Zerg teammates, which include exactly Cyril, almost every Zerg player would have... That was a perfect... Either that's happened to him before or he mapped out the response near instantaneously. The spine crawler positioning, everything had to go perfect. Otherwise, he loses the hatchery and maybe the game. And this is looking like a much shorter series. But Reynor holds. And then he recovers from the struggles. And finally, survives to 10,000 feet. Well, I mean, I think we would have played this either way, but it would not have been this... You got the idea. The lighting is crazy here. And why isn't this an underwater map? Are we 10,000 feet above water? Kind of doubt it. But, so, this one of the top 3 of the Team Liquid map contest, which means it will be on the ladder and likely in tournament map pools throughout the near future. For the first time, we have a guarantee that the top maps, as voted by the people, and also apparently the rest of the maps will be voted by tournament organizers like Wardy, shout out to Wardy, and players. So, both, though. And I think it's important we talk about the tournament organizers and tournament enjoyers, as the players will usually vote for a reskin of the same 3 maps until the end of time, because they've practiced strategies. There's a distinct and entertaining minority of players who actually like the more creative maps. Ryung might be in that category, but most players, I mean, you practice for 1, 2, 3, 8, 10,000 hours. And you don't want to have a lot of that thrown away by some completely different... Now, I don't think a map like this with a mineral... So, let's actually talk about it. You know, I'm kind of burying the lead here. 10,000 feet, there's a mineral wall to the third. Now that we're guaranteed to get the map, we can talk about all the details. There's a mineral wall which requires, I believe, 5 minerals apiece here. So the difference between having a mineral wall with more minerals and a mineral wall with more mineral patches is that mules can't mine it out instantly. Like if you have one with 20 minerals, that's 4 trips. Or 1 for a mule, which kind of breaks things. But having more mineral patches makes it 4 trips for any worker, including mules. So, that's kind of a relevant point. This base probably the most tucked in. There's also... I thought... Is there a rich Vespine? There's a set of Zerg rocks, which get dehydrated and essentially dry out and die at 8 minutes. That's the default. I'm not sure if map makers can change it. But after 8 minutes, the Zerg rocks will be removed. Though one of the quirks of it is that if there is creep, they will no longer get dehydrated. They will stop bleeding out. much like that drone if it goes into a spore crawler, but the Reaper comes back around and he gets it. Get off my creep! Brenda, you know we killed a drone. I am very aware of that, Susan. I almost always know where I am. Oh, okay, Brenda. Sorry, I blacked out for... But the Reaper's taken down. The Zerg rocks 8 minutes, so you can't actually heal them as Zerg. They're not on your team, they're just neutrals that... It's much like creep in Zerg versus Zerg. Creep's creep, okay? There's no distinguishing. It's only the creep tumors that are owned by either player in particular. Yeah, what a game. Reynor, I think, almost actively dislikes relying on spellcaster. I mean, he'll use them, as we saw there. And it wasn't until that Cash Money Fungal that he was able to really grab anything resembling map control. But it seems only under duress will use those sort of strategies. He would much prefer to use the Mass, Lingbane, Ultra, Burrow, multiple run-bys, but at some point... Alright, when they're bringing their fancy psionic spellcasters and the ghosts, the army just gets a little bit too strong. I am loving this lighting. I think they changed up the lighting from the initial version, which was much more dark and sad and depressing. I can subscribe for Existential Dread, but also I like it more. It's much better. I think this is going to end up being the official version. We'll see. We'll see. And what we are seeing is Banshee speed on the way at the same time as Reynor rushes up to Hive, which is... This is kind of a little crazy. And... Oh, the Hellions. Gotta pay the toll on the way out. Reynor with a clever block, but darts back in! And there is a way out here. Okay. So Banshee's speed is about 20 seconds quicker on the research. Still the same amount of speed once you get it done. And some Terran players have been opting to go Banshee speed instead of Cloak, with the thought process being most of the time if you're getting hit, it's a mistake anyway, so might as well be able to reposition faster. So, while last game we started at 100, this game it's going to take a while to build up to it. As Hive infest, this is going to be one of those games that explodes into action. I'm not talking about these little skirmishes flirting back and forth with some Banshees and Queens and surprise! The Hellions get by! And Char broiling all the drones at the natural. And apparently also my CPU. Wow, Jimmy! What a timing. I want to see it one more time. That was so good. Wait, can I recreate this? It looks so good on this map. I mean, yeah, okay. You could do the play-by-play commentary. I like the way they burn. But wait, we're not done! The Inferno continues! A few more drones. Incinerated. 15 in total. Well, that was certainly... That was too much. There's no way. Changeling taken down. Reynor losing 16 drones to Hellions that he had already actively defended against. Ryung with... He just swerved back in for another round. It wasn't anything subtle. It wasn't anything crazy. But it was certainly effective. And Reynor got burned for it. Yeah, rushing up. Hive is already done at 7 minutes. Adrenal glands will be the first upgrade. Double medevac sent out. Ryung already building up back at home. There's going to be incredibly quick Vipers. Adrenal glands as well for the 40%. He got adrenal glands, I think, right around +1. He has Zergling speed, right? Yeah. Okay. It's not always a guarantee. Gonna take down some of the Zerg rocks. Good target practice. More Marines on the way. Ryung is already at 71 SCVs and a second factory in production. So less committed to the all-out timing and more just trying to keep control of the situation so we can take advantage of it later with a stronger army, better upgrades. All the fixings. Zerg rocks finished bleeding out. Another changeling spotted and taken down. The double Banshee. He didn't lose any, correct? Correct. Those Banshees finding their way back home to get repaired. The mineral patches are taken, removed by the drones, opening up another opportunity to attack along the left side. 1-1 is about to complete for the Marines. And no further hive tech from Reynor. Just adrenal glands and vipers. I mean, eventually it unlocks things like upgrades. Or just, you know, upgrades. Right. The Vipers slurping out another hatchery, which was a mixed bag last game, to be honest. Banshee's backing off. What a disparity. As, Changelings, not really trying to convince anyone. Spire versus Ghost Academy. Double drop down the center. The Banelings rolling in and the Marines! Oh no. Staring death in the face and then getting it melted off. Well, the build-up continues. Reynor 80 drones going on 5 hatcheries, plus 2 melee attack halfway there, plus 3 carapace just started. Ryung, on the other hand, nearly maxed out 4 bases, plus 2 infantry weapons and armor, almost completed. A second armory is on the way, and he's got 2 factories already, so a much more bio-curious sort of build. The depot, the one depot that learned how to raise. If your depot raises for more than 4 hours, make sure to consult a civil engineer or something. I'm not... He just leaves it. All right. Single depotly blocking most of the units from moving throughout his base. The Banshee's still going to work, but not for much longer after the parasitic bombs. At least one of them will be taken out. The second, it shouldn't be enough. A greater Spire is on the way. And is this a rush to Broodlords? I mean, Broodlords, probably the strongest composition for Zerg, and always has been throughout StarCraft 2, throughout 2/3 of Reynor's lifetime. Infestor Broodlord has been the ultimate endgame for Zerg. There's been changes, there's been adjustments, buffs, and nerfs. But the Broodlord is now bug fixed, where before, at the edge of its range, it wouldn't reliably use all of its broodlings, and would have a struggle for some of the broodlings to actually land and do the volley attack that is so important. Though it still is quite slow. In fact, it was nerfed a little in speed, as well as being single purpose. There's simply no other unit that can reliably deal with an overwhelming ground army. Wow, okay. This is like no rush 15 minutes. Yes, I know we have these skirmishes, but nothing resembling a committed attack from either side, and we're 12 minutes in. Ryung is building 5 command centers and a nuke. This isn't Big Game Hunters. You can check out my last video for Big Game Hunters. Please check it out. The algorithm does not like it. Trust me. Okay, almost as action-packed as the last game. Actually, more so, just more like toddlers flailing than a heavyweight bout. But still, reapplies a parasitic bomb, and he just lets the Marines go. 3 more factories on the way as Ryung takes us to McDonald's, as he knows flesh is weak and malleable. Marines dropping out into the siege tank fire. Ryung is building the idealized, the platonic ideal. Terrans only want one thing, and it's absolutely disgusting. That one thing is Brood War siege tank sounds, as well as 5 factories. The Industrial Revolution has completed. Now knocks down the Banshee. Double medevac. They had enough HP. Ryung? Oh yeah, that command center. Dropping out the Marines. Gonna take out one of the tanks. Infernal Pre-Ignited. The Blue Flame Hellions on the way. Infestors in production. 3-3 about completed for Ryung. As we draw closer to an actual confrontation. Are there any corruptors? No. There was 100 larvae in the bank for Reynor. Using some of it now. He's actually only at 173 supply. Which is not 200, I said, as a mathematical genius. A volley of scans comes out. He's got 7 orbital commands. Now that's more of the... and here comes the... It looks like a full-on leapfrog push. Slowly but surely grinding forward, getting some missile turrets to zone out infestors, scanning for any potential counterattacks. 9 corruptors on the way, as Reynor is opting for flyer attack and Carapace right off the bat. The Liberator. The Masco stims the entire Marine Marauder army. Those medevacs probably very annoyed. Looks like the Ravagers sacrificed themselves to take out the Liberator, which was not necessary, but... Another volley of scans in triplicate. I mean, just why not? It's map hacks with extra steps, but you do have to invest in it in-game, I guess. This Terran army, it's really, well, he's maxed out. How much is still at home? A few tanks. It's just so dense. Okay. There's a lot of potential damage in this army, despite its less than overwhelming size. The siege tanks and liberators tag teaming the drones down the center. 3-3 on the ground done for both sides, and now working on +3 mech weapons is Ryung. But the Marauders and Ghosts will be melting. The Infestor's getting close. Doesn't quite take out the hatchery, is clearly angling for it. Gonna split the Marauders, but the Zerglings, the Vipers. Chases down, no, 2 medevacs! Oh no, it's a disaster! Now, of the unforced errors, well, I guess that was forced, but as there's so much going on. But 2 medevacs taken down with all hands. What a disaster for Ryung. It was clearly, like, he knows what he wants, but Reynor's making it almost impossible to get it. He just can't concentrate on this attack for long enough to really bring it together. Reynor has enough money to start the next game, but with this much money, he might not need to. There are 3 Thors in production. Ryung, I believe, scanned. He didn't see the Greater Spire, but he's building Thors, clearly anticipating something like this. He may have seen the Corruptors. There's a chance he saw the Broodlords morphing with one of the many, many scans. The Ghost count, 16. The Nuke count, 1. Thors in production. Smart servos to be able to shift the Transformer-based Terran units. Well, the non-sieging ones. Quickly. The Broodlords just kind of flapping past. The siege tanks, big hits on the Banelings, but become a liability as soon as the Broodlings are involved. Overseers in surveillance mode, lining up the shots, trying to knock it down. Not gonna happen. Broodlings. And then the siege tanks themselves, firing at their ankles. Broodlords moving through. And the Infestors are targeted down as they get into range. Tries to line up some more shots. Cuts down a couple broods. Meanwhile, the Bio Army split off. The Queen's on their own. 1 hatchery knocked out on the 3 o'clock. But Ryung's going to be losing the 9 o'clock position. And the Marines and Marauders are still moving through. Reynor is maxed out, but he only has 24 Zerglings. He's building a few dozen more, but that's actually not enough Zerglings to deal with even a double drop. And 4 Thors. And however many years ago, we decided to deal with this army. The Infestor Broodlord. Thors have always been an answer. Have they been the best answer? Not always. Are they the most effective? Maybe. But they certainly are a strong response. The only downside here is they are a rich man's response. Thors are one of the most expensive units Terran can build. And if they're in an even money game, then Reynor's going to struggle to deal with them. But he already has 2/2 upgrades for the Broodlords. He already has Neural Parasite for the... Okay, there's only 1 Infestor, which is definitely not enough. We'll see if Reynor can EMP the ghosts. Well, that Infestor throws out a fungal from the grave. There's a fusion core on the way, but this time it's... Advanced ballistics would be helpful. More starports in production. Parasitic bomb knocking down some more medevacs. Changelings gunned down as they become obvious. He knows that those aren't real because he only has 6 Marines and they're all on the other side of the map. One easy way to figure out if they're changelings or not. Another volley of scans. Just blasted across the map. The Thor's Banelings. En masse. Again, quantity has a quality all its own. But the Thor count is getting damn high. Hydraless Den is on the way because Lurkers become powerful again against this magnitude of Thors. A blinding cloud on the low ground. The Banelings rolling through. 68 more Zerglings in production. He's running into a larva issue. He needs like 17 more macro hatches. As the biggest risk right now for Reynor is not losing a fight. It's getting nuked. That is a big risk, I will say. Wait, is the red dot? Let's go. I think he spotted it. He's looking. No, he's looking. He doesn't see it. I lied. He definitely saw it. Pulls it away. I was just making sure nothing else was over there. The Corruptors spraying through the planetary fortress. The SCVs actually stopped preparing for a moment, and they may regret that decision. Oh, typical contractors. At this point, the nuke's kind of a Hail Mary. The biggest risk for Reynor, though, is not losing a fight, but in not winning a fight hard enough, and then the critical mass of Terran still being strong to the point of just running him over. Like, if he only is able to refill 50 out of 100 army supply, there's a real chance that Ryung maintains enough army to reach a critical mass. It's not a likelihood here. A drone, very optimistic about expanding. Orbital Command was on a sightseeing tour. But the Zerglings. Last game was a brawl, but this is a beatdown. Starting to look more one-sided than a Mobius strip here, as Reynor, with 15,000 minerals and 7,600 gas in the bank. There's a lot of Zerglings that he can throw away. And he's only lost about 350 this game, so... Just knocks out another planetary with caustic spray, of all things. Ryung's army is still incredibly strong. But, much like your mother, it has some severe mobility issues with this much weight to throw around. Alright, units this massive are not something that can get around the map easily. Though maybe he needs to just be boosting the medevacs of Thors. I don't know. Well, here come so many Banelings, the blinding clouds! But the Banes are at point-blank range. He just rolls right through! And... well... looks like we found that scenario where Reynor won the fight. And he has enough lava to refill. 14 Hydras, 70 Zerglings, and a few Broodlords over to the left side. Will deny money on yet another base. And wow, besides Mount Mule there, a few moments ago, the income has been decisively and overwhelmingly in Reynor's favor. He has mined... Okay, let's see this one. He has mined 10,000 more minerals. He's lost the same amount. He's mined the same amount of gas and lost 4,000 less. The Thors will be ripped apart by the ankle-biting Zerglings. The Banelings rolling in for another round. And this one, it's all over but the G's. The Banelings roll in, and the Ghosts are annihilated. You can't let a Zerg macro to that extent. And Reynor with a crushing 2-0 victory, pulling it together after a much more hectic game to start things off. Ryung thought the late game might be where he could thrive, but instead, it's where he died. And brings us to our anti-spoiler bonus game, where you're like, wow, does Ryung actually make Ghost look completely imbalanced and impossible? No! But for our anti-spoiler game, we got something a little special. Got a little it's Reynor versus Solar, but there's a bit of a twist. Introducing our Protoss player. In the bottom right corner, we have Reynor up against his usually Zerg counterpart Solar. But Ryung, the bunker wall into, I do think almost any other player would have lost to it. It was so well executed. Ryung with, he's been a pro gamer. He was in, I believe, the very first GSL. Over 15 years ago now. I'm sorry. And continues to show off some of the... Yes, an extra twist. Solar was not looking closely. Even pro gamers don't usually notice, because most players don't switch races in the lobby screen. You didn't mention to me. BM, bad manners. And it is a little bit of a dick move, to be honest. Now, I feel like if he really... So, if you switch it at like the last few... If you switch it at like the last few seconds... Okay, so what he's saying here is Reynor was able to pick the map. So no matter what, whether he was Zerg or Protoss, Reynor was going to pick this map. So Solar, if Solar was the one who picked the map, and Reynor didn't tell him he was Protoss, then that'd be a super dick move, and potentially against the rules, though I don't think the players would have that situation. So, like, say, I don't know, what map is good for Protoss? Or good for, not good against Protoss. Probably, Pylon. A base where you could get 4 bases, like, free. Just throwing it out there. Mostly because it's called Pylon. But in this case, apparently Reynor had the map pick either way. So it's not like Solar picked the wrong map. But there are, like, would he have gone for an extractor trick into a quicker hatch? Maybe, because if the first time he realized that his opponent was Protoss was as the probe came across, that's too late for that. So make no mistake, Reynor probably should have said something in the chat. But also, technically, it's not against the rules. Most tournaments allow you to switch races because entertainment value, and who wants to watch mere matchups anyways? You think I'd be showing you ZVZ of Solar versus Reynor right now as an anti-spoiler game after Reynor's most epic Terran versus Zerg? It's possible, honestly. But then this showed up, so... Anyways, we got past the filler phase here. As Protoss versus Zerg is on quite a narrow set of rails for the most part. Assuming Hero isn't at the wheel. I mean, like, do trains have wheels? Heroes do. It took 3 games to talk about Hero in a Terran versus Zerg series. Crazy. I'm getting better. Or worse. I'm not sure which one it is. Same with Hero. But the 3 hatches on the way. The queens able to zone out alongside the Zerglings, the early adepts. But Reynor is going to be grabbing these mineral patches and expanding to the kind of pocket base, which is protected by some Zerg rocks and the minerals themselves. Did he mess up the wall? Yeah. Guess who that reminds me of? Me. Emulating hero. Bait and switch. That is, if you've ever watched the stream, though, just every time mess up the wall off, it's a hero build. Then again, heroes stopped walling off against Zerg for some Tassadar forsaken reason. I have no idea what he's doing. But he's winning. In fact, in the tournament before this we saw, he beat Reynor 4-1. Something like that. And it wasn't close. It was some of the most disgusting cheese, which you should go watch as well. After that big Game Hunters match. I'm serious about it, though. It's really good. I was really skeptical, but I watched like 6 minutes. All right, I'm going for it. So I did. And the next minutes were even better. I didn't watch any of this match. I just saw Reynor was playing Protoss and Solar complained. That's as far as I got. I'm like, all right, perfect. Clip it and ship it. Is he just gonna do glaives? That'd be so cliche. Don't just go glaives. Blink! Yeah, it was way too late for glaives anyways. Double Oracle coming in. So far, 1 probe dead. The queens! Oh, beautiful Oracle micro out of hero. Sorry, Reynor. Oh, God. Oh. Falling apart. But Solar still has 52 drones. And he's got a Hydralisk Den halfway done. Clearly angling for a Hydra timing. As not too much more investment in the drones. No 4th base on the way either. So, Reynor's moving out at the same time as Solar is moving into mass Hydra. He's going to try to keep the pressure on. The 3 Oracles, the Triumvirate overhead. Making things difficult. Almost a 4-ical build here. But not going any further. I think realizing that if Solar doesn't have a 4th base, you know, I think Reynor is pretty well accomplished at Zerg himself. In fact, Solar is currently just slightly lower in the Zerg rankings. They're about neck and neck right now for the 2nd best Zerg in the world. You can figure out who's the 1st. Really shouldn't even be the same category, to be honest, but... Hydras and Langs headed across, as they're both prancing around on their fancy feet or feet accessories, which you can find more of on my Dronely fans. Storm is on the way. So far, Reynor has lost a singular probe. Here come the Blink Stalkers. The Hydra's on the other side of the map. He's going to try to just defend with the Hydras he's building currently. Looking to break through with the natural. The Adept is on hold position. Going to target the hatchery. There's a stasis at the back. Is he anticipating this? Storm is only halfway done so far. The stasis catches the Hydras. A perfect stasis, but going to be breaking through. The Hydra counterattack. Looking very good right now. Solar breaks through into the natural. Just a few Stalkers warped in. The Blink Stalkers dueling with a... Not enough Hydras back at home, but the Zerglings get in. Tears down a pylon. Tears down the backup pylon. And 4 gateways now depowered. Most of his production. That's actually a huge deal. He's going to take down the Cyber Core. Oh, no. It's an absolute disaster. Just a half dozen Hydras and a dozen Zerglings combining to... Well, this went from a kerfuffle to critical, possibly game-ending damage. He lost his Cyber Core. I don't think he's realized yet that he does not have charge. Storm is not enough to ward all this off. Reynor has 1,500 minerals he can't spend in the bank. And maybe one sharp pang of regret of not sticking to his native Zerg. Solar with the casual counterattack. And Reynor is crumbling under the sheer amount of Zerg. The concave is good. The Archon shoved into the front lines. That's the only thing resembling splash damage left over. The probes are pulled off the line. He's going to have a serious problem after this one. 25 probes dead. Solar continues streaming across the map. And oh, Reynor. GG. Oh, a little bit too far on this one. A complete crumbling. He got such a perfect engagement on the other side. I think he got baited into too good of a fight. If that stasis hadn't hit on the Hydras, he would have retreated so much quicker. But because it hit, he kept fighting the Hydras instead of retreating. And that allowed Solar to do an inordinate amount of damage at the natural. That translated into just winning the game. And probably feeling a little smug about it too. As he deserved to be. But hopefully you enjoyed Reynor dismantling Ryung after that back and forth brawl. And a little bit of extra spice on the end. And thank you to Wardy for putting on yet another incredible tournament. The WardiTV Korean Royale is going to be happening throughout the end of November. At least the next week or two if you're watching this on the first day. In which case, you're incredible, you're breathtaking, and you should check out Patreon if you got the means of motivation, YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. And thank you to our Mule Tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jakey Devin Door, Drag Kate, Mario Suit, and everyone. Smash that hype button. Glad you still enjoy. I don't know what the hype button does, but they keep saying it, so glad you still enjoy. I hope I made your day a little bit better. Check out that, oh, which match was I referencing? Not the Big Game Hunters, the other one. Oh, Reynor versus Hero here. Jimmy. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.